Welcome to episode one of my podcast. I haven't thought of a name for it, but maybe it's just called I Help Men Dress Better. Who knows? We yeah, this is episode one, so it's gonna be a little bit janky, it's gonna be a little uncomfortable. You can even see, assuming I haven't already edited this out, you can probably see my ring light in the back, reflected against that door. But hopefully I will have edited this. So this is like episode zero. I'm going to be working on getting this a little bit better. I want to be doing weekly 15-minute podcasts and then using that to produce my content. But I also want it to allow me to get sort of longer ideas out. I think a lot of times my content will be, I'm just working so hard to smush an idea into 1 minute that I don't always feel like I'm able to give the level, scope, and degree of value that I really want to be giving you. Obviously, this is the work that I do, and it's work that I'm very passionate about. And while, of course, I want to be able to work with you one on one as a client, I also want to make sure that I'm able to give enough actionable, value that you can really do a lot on your own. I know for myself, I was able to build up a lot of my own repertoire, working on my own, and obviously I had the, I had the advantage of being single and mostly unencumbered back then. So I was single, and I had a lot of time on my hands to, really just take in a lot of media information and really trial and error a lot of the style knowledge that I was learning. So not everyone has that, experience or, you know, privilege, right? And, a lot of the guys that I talk to now, that I work with now, you may be like this where you're a dad, you've got a couple of kids, you don't really have the time to sit around and learn just all of this general style knowledge. But you still want to be able to dress better. You still want to be able to, have some actionable tips that you can improve your style. And then, of course, obviously, the ideal would be, something more customized, something more, your style, your distinct understanding of how you want to dress and how to make that happen versus just kind of taking some information and doing some trial and error. So I'm going to try to deliver as much value as I can in this podcast as possible and hopefully get the chance to deep dive a little bit more into topics that I may have touched on in a shorter video, something that's more like a minute, and then obviously be able to turn this into those sorts of pieces of content so that people can still get value from those shorter clips on places like LinkedIn for now, although we'll see how I expand out if I end up expanding out to somewhere like Instagram. But yeah, I wanted to start out episode one by talking about something that I don't think I've really talked about a lot in my recent content, but it is something that I talked about in my content in the past, and it is something that's very core to my view on style and what's really important, and that is style archetypes. So when we when we want to improve our style, when you want to improve your style, you need a framework, right? You can't just say, well, I want to dress better. Well, what does dress better mean? It's like a very broad term. So a lot of the work that I do and a lot of the work that you need to do if you want to have a great style, you want to have a personal style, is to really figure out the framework for what do you even consider to be good style, right? What do you consider to be good style? What does the world consider to be good style? And then you're trying to marry that and find your balance where you fall, right? So the question, right? What is good style to you? and what is your style. So what archetypes really help you do is they help you say, okay, what are the styles that I'm seeing out in the world, and what are the parameters of the style that I see myself in kind of in my head. So the three archetypes that I like to work with, and these have been adapted from Tanner Guzy's work. I'm a huge fan of his. I have a little bit of a different approach to different elements of style, especially when it comes to ideas like masculinity, and I'm probably going to tackle that in the future. But I really like these style archetypes, or sort of masculine archetypes, and they are refined, rugged, and rebellious. So the refined archetype, these are guys who really do well in society. They know the rules. It's all about moving up in hierarchies, right? And when you think about the refined man, you might think of, um, like businessmen, sales kind of office work, politicians, people who exist in these kind of hierarchical structures, and there are rules that you have to know and games that you have to play to move up in these structures. And these are the guys who are happy to sort of fit in a certain way and play by the rules, because it's going to get them the outcomes that they want. And there's a little bit of wiggle room in here, but yeah, when you think of the refined archetype, I'm sure something comes to mind for you. It might be suit and tie. It might be just, I mean, I think suit and tie would be like probably the clearest archetype in this bucket, right? Then there's the rugged archetype, and rugged men, they work with their hands, they're very physical, and you might think of, military, farmers, thinking about even sports, sports, very physical, rugged elements, right? So these are guys who are more, they express their masculinity in relation to their body, in relation to what they can physically build and produce in the world. And then there's the rebel, and the rebel he's the guy who he understands the rules and decides to break them, right? So it's sort of the opposite of the refined, but it's not always in contrast. They're not opposites, they can be blended, right? So the refined man appreciates the rules and likes to follow them. The rebel is a little bit more about, you understand the rules and then you strategically break them, because usually to lend to some sort of innovation, a lot of creatives, right? Think like creatives, and people throughout history, like different archetypes that might fall under the rebel would be, pirates, rock stars, thought leaders that are going against the grain. Uh, a lot of people have a lot of difficulty with like Alex Hormozy's style. Alex Hormozy would be a great example of the rebel archetype, because he's taking sort of controversial this sort of controversial look, a look that not everyone's going to like. It actually looks at first glance very mediocre and very, like disheveled, not caring. But when you look a little closer, you can see that he really takes care of his hair and beard. He's really taking care of, his grooming and his fitness and his clothing. While it may look mediocre on the outside, he's put a lot of thought into it, and the way it fits and the way it all works together is very clearly, like there's intention there, but he's trying to push against the grain somewhere. So he isn't dressing the way you would expect like a massive business owner to be dressing, and that is what makes his style, in that rebellious archetype, right? Ooh, just gonna unceremoniously blow my nose in the middle of the podcast. What can we do? Okay, so yeah, so these three archetypes, right? The refined, the rugged, and the rebel, they're not completely separate. We all have all three of them. And what tends to happen is we have kind of one primary, one secondary that sort of flavors the primary, and then the third one that it might be completely absent, or it could sort of pop up in different ways. So I'll give myself as an example, um, just because I'm here and nobody else is. So there. Uh, my primary archetype is somewhere between refined and rebel. It's really challenging for me to say that one of them is higher or lower than the other. But I would say that I like to feel refined when I get dressed. I like that when I get dressed, the final product has a level of refinement to me based on how I understand refinement. And I want it to sort of maybe, I don't know about express to the rest of the world, because I think it would be more important for me to express refinement to the rest of the world, but also that rebel element of kind of creativity. One of the challenges with the rebel element is that you leave a lot up to interpretation. So there's a lot of risk involved, right? When you dress refined, you sort of know how people are going to take you. It's a little bit clearer, right? Like you're wearing a suit and tie, like you just know people, you know what society understands when you wear that. Whereas with the rebel archetype, you leave yourself up a little bit more to interpretation. And that has definitely been something that's taken a lot of work internally from me, in order to get to a point where I felt comfortable embracing that rebel side of me. But I think since doing that, like it's been almost, like I said, it's possibly my primary archetype. It's primary. It's possibly like my primary concern when I get dressed. Um, but I do feel like I'm. I would say that I'm probably, if I was, the only reason I would say refined is my primary is because if I was 100% refined, if I got dressed in the morning and I was 100% refined and there was nothing truly rebellious about my outfit, I would probably feel okay, and I would feel pretty powerful. I would, as long as I looked good, I would feel pretty good. But if I was in something that was 100% rebellious and there wasn't any refinement, I would probably feel uncomfortable. So that's, I think, the only reason I would say refined is going to be my primary archetype, and then rebellious. But uh, once I'm integrating the two together, they're both really important that they're present. Um, I would put rugged as almost like a repressed archetype. There's really nothing. There's not a lot of ruggedness in my life that I'm looking to express. And when I do express ruggedness, it feels a little bit alien. So when I do wear pieces that transmit ruggedness, I do try to offset that. Like I'll wear chinos that are maybe a little bit more like workwear fit, but I'm really trying to offset that and make that read more as refined and using that to be the rebel element. I actually have these two jackets. I have these two jackets. So when I was on Instagram a few years back, there it was very cool in the menswear space to wear like dress pants and dress shoes and a dress shirt and a tie, and then wear sort of like a more casual jacket. So more like a safari jacket. And I could not afford the safari jackets that I was looking at that were beautiful. And so I was trying to find something that would fill that gap. And I bought these two trucker jackets, or like trucker work shirts from the Gap, and they're great. But the thing that I ran into with them is that they were too rugged. Like they read too rugged to me. And so I I rarely wear them these days, and when I do, it's always hard to strike that balance where I feel really comfortable wearing them. And so it's it's really important to understand not only why you like something, but also like it's not only important to understand that you like something or don't like something, it's also important to understand why, because that can really inform how you want to move forward, right? So like for me, if I am more in the refined and rebel camp, if something is rugged and I see it and I don't like it, knowing that the ruggedness is what makes me not like it means that I can pick apart the different pieces of something and I can look at, let's say, an outfit and say, okay, I really like this, but it's not for me. It's too rugged. But what can I take from it? Oh, okay. So they're wearing like, jeans and this sort of jacket. Well, maybe I can keep the colors, or maybe I can keep the cut, but I want it in a fabric that's going to make it, more refined, right? Or more rebellious. Okay, so like I said, this episode's only going to be around 15 minutes. We're already rolling in at the 16 minutes, so hopefully I've given you something to think about, and I'm really looking forward to sort of doing a little bit more of this nonchalant and relaxed uh, style of podcast. I I hope I can get some good content out of this, and I'm hoping that you got some clarity and value, or at least something to think about that we can really build upon in future episodes. Let me know what you thought in the comments. If you're watching this on YouTube, I think I'm going to put this up on YouTube. Maybe try to get it on Spotify, and I'm definitely going to be putting some clips on LinkedIn. So please let me know what you think in the comments. I'd really love to hear from you, what you thought of these concepts, of the idea of these three archetypes, and if you have any questions and or any ideas on how I can make this more clear, please let me know. Shlomo Homnick. I help men dress better, and you can find me on LinkedIn at Shlomo Homnick, the one with the bright fuchsia background. So don't click on my other account. It's not the one where you're going to find the style related content. Yeah, have a great day.